So good evening, everyone. This is such a huge pleasure. I don't know if Vani has my attention, but Vani, Priyanka, Kalari team, uh, I think this event, if we weren't audacious enough, Vani, this has made us very, very audacious. Just listening to all the women here, I took the first step of planning a day trip to Bangalore, which I think is an audacious dream. Hopefully, I'll accomplish that. But I think even more so, it's such a pleasure to be sharing stage with Neha. Neha and I had a conversation a few days back, and I think I found her to be, her humility to be absolutely point on. I was like, she's just IPO'd a company. How can this be, just so simple? So a little bit about Neha. So Neha Singh is a graduate from IIT Bombay and the Leland Stanford Business University. Eventually landed a super high-paying job at a venture capital firm. However, the entrepreneurial streak struck, and she decided to start her own company. Neha, what was the reaction of your parents? Just asking.
Yeah, actually, they didn't understand it to begin with. They're like, why?
I can imagine. So she's the founder of Tracxn, an aspiration, by the way, for all of us founders to be listed on. IPO comes next. Tracxn is a cloud-based market research platform. I mean, who doesn't know Tracxn? Should I even talk about it? But just as a formality. So it's a market research platform founded by a husband-wife duo, Neha and Abhishek, in 2013, which helps venture capital, private equity, and corporate development firms track and analyze startups across various technology sectors. And like I said, it just went for an IPO in 2022. Neha, congratulations on that. Fabulous. I think like Priyanka said, how many women founders can we say that, took the company to IPO? And you're, I think, sort of inspiration for many, many of us. So since the topic is audacity to dream, let's just begin with that. I think when any founder starts a company, how many of us actually start saying, oh, we'll do an IPO, or we'll do this exit, et cetera, because most of us are so consumed with like everyday crisis, survival, all of that, right? And then for women founders, right? I think women typically, as founders, we are very practical, very pragmatic. We don't even allow ourselves to dream beyond like, 6 months, 8 months, a year, 2 years, right? So when was it where that Neha said, oh, the first time Neha said, okay, I'm going to take my company public?
No, thanks a lot, Preeti, for that. So yeah, that's a very interesting question. And when did we start thinking about it? And when I was thinking about my the listing speech or just reflecting back, that was a good moment to think, when did we first think about IPO? So interestingly, we actually thought about it right from the day one.
Wow.
So the fact was that I was in Stanford, and that is where we all started Tracxn in. And we had initially incorporated the company in US, which is Tracxn Inc. And we were working with the funds, and we got the first term sheet in US from a well-renowned fund. And we actually spent some time debating whether if we would have closed it, then our HQ would have been US, and then obviously listing in India is much more difficult. So at that time, maybe we had the luxury of the fact that we were investors earlier, so we had seen this playbook play out in some of the portfolio companies as well. And that time we decided that, let's not take the term sheet, let's do that, and let's actually close the Tracxn Inc. and actually incorporate the company in India. We had the foresight at that time that, whenever that happens in the lifetime of the company, maybe, obviously, definitely not in the first few, decade, but whenever that happens, that will be a good outcome. And, India is a market that likes cash flow companies, and financial data in general can be a cash flow good cash generating business. So, India might be a good place to IPO whenever that happens. So that is when we actually, sort of did not take that term sheet, and then we took that, incorporated the company in India. Interestingly, the partner who was leading that, he also sort of invested as an angel, in this company. But that's where, it happened, like right when we were incorporating the company.
Wow, so refusing a term sheet and dreaming of an IPO in India, I think that happens simultaneously. Wow, Neha, that's a great story. Nandita just touched upon audacious doer, and we are talking about audacious dreamers. So between you and Abhishek, who's the audacious doer and who's the audacious dreamer?
Uh, I think interestingly, both of us have had a very sort of a similar one. Like I'm computer science, he's tech, and I was in Sequoia Capital. He was in Excel. So we have, in that sense, I think sort of similar in that one. But I guess. I think this is a very listing your company is a very key decision, right? For anyone, any stakeholder involved, because as I say to a lot of founders, this is not an exit. This is actually you promise your shareholders that you're going to be there for the next 2 decades at least. So that is it's actually beginning of another journey. And then you are even if you look at India publicly listed space, most of the founders actually continue to run the company decades afterwards. And only after probably they turn, they are retired, or they probably step off, or if you have someone able, then you will do that. But essentially you are, you're going to be there at the helm and you're going to spend like most of your critical, key years, I would say key years of your career in doing that. So I think this was, this was an idea that, sort of both of us sort of were really excited about, and both of us independently had thought about it at our different funds. So I think at that time, in that way, the decision was easier, and then obviously the whole execution sort of happens afterwards.
Super. So I think as a company grows, obviously the stakes are higher. I think your attachment to the company is higher. Sometimes I think the tiredness is also high because you've spent years building it, and it's not easy being a founder, right? So how did you sort of debate and take this decision that we do not want to exit, we want to IPO, because like you rightly said, which means that it is something that you will run for many, many years to come. So what are those factors that helped you make this decision in favor of an IPO versus an exit?
Right. No, that's a very critical question. Obviously, if you raise venture capital, you typically have to provide exit to your investors, in the first 7-8 years, at max. And these are the two paths that you have. You can either do an M&A or you can do an IPO. And M&A, obviously, you get a good exit, and then you think about this. I think for us, this was an idea that we were really excited about, and we continue to be so interestingly. And this market also continues to become like larger and larger. To give you a small. When I was in Stanford, I'd actually worked with the Stanford Management Company, which was their endowment fund, which is, I think, $23 billion endowment fund. At that time, their allocation to private equities was like, small single digit. So they didn't even used to track it, and today it's more than 25%. Right, so that's a huge, shift that has happened in just the last 10 years, and this market has become larger, and hence the need for more data, etc., which is there globally. And so I think this was something that you were sort of really excited about, and you had a vision of how this will unfold. Not just for the investors, but for like today, we work with corporates as well as investors, universities, governments, right? So there's a whole lot of stakeholders who are looking at this market. So I think that is what, probably was the most exciting thing. And, that probably keeps you sort of really focused on, how big this can become.
Yeah, I think as a founder, one of the things that we chisel over time is decision-making skill. But this is like literally like one of the biggest decisions of your life that you would make. So thank you for sharing that. I think I'll just come to the next question, which is life after IPO now. It's been 2 years, and I think it all sounds very glamorous, right? IPO'd, and it's a huge achievement, right? But life does change for a founder after that, for the company as well. Can you help us understand,
Right.
your life after the IPO?
Yeah, no, that's a very key question. In fact, I myself asked most of the listed companies which are there in India, like their founders in probably the previous 3 to 4 years. Now, how has your life changed? So the interesting answer is that the life does not change a lot. It's not as bad as people have made out to be. A lot of people, say, oh, you're getting listed, your life will change after that. So it's not as bad. Obviously, there are, probably a couple of the things which changes. So one is just the sense of responsibility. To give an example, initially when we were private, we had about 50 shareholders. Today we have 1 lakh shareholders, right? So that is a lot. And that also brings a lot of responsibility, that you are actually, that so many people have sort of invested in your journey at various points in time. So, that just makes, I guess, the whole team sort of more disciplined and more focused. That's one thing. And the second thing, obviously, that is there that, whatever you say, you have to be very consistent and thoughtful in whatever you say. So you cannot have like spin, okay, this is the spin, in this quarter versus this year, that's the flavor. Because most of the people that come in to meet you, investors, they actually read what you have said. So everything that you say is firstly recorded, transcribed, and kept for the next 10 years. So, you cannot like say something and get away with it. And whoever investor is actually coming to meet you, they would have read this transcript, like for even like very senior people. I'm really surprised. Like there was a very senior fund manager who probably runs like a few billion-dollar fund, mutual fund. He's head of that, and he was coming to our office to meet. He was actually going through the transcripts. He was like, he came in 1 hour earlier to our office, and he was actually going through all the transcripts. And I was like, wow, that's the kind of, research even like the most senior person would do. So I think that's the sense of, the other thing is that, you have to be very thoughtful and consistent in whatever you say, because whatever you say is basically written, transcribed, and people sort of, follow that.
Super amazing. And I think we're here at the CXXO platform, and I think it's very important to talk about, just the journey of a woman founder. I know it's much spoken about, but I think you've done this journey from like the 0 to the 1,000 now. So typically when it is, you're two founders, and then as a woman, is the journey more challenging? Talk us through some challenges that you faced, and how did you address them?
No, that's a great question. And so I think, thankfully for me, I did not face a lot of challenges externally, if I were to say, in terms of shareholders, in terms of, selling to large corporates, etc. I think a lot of your challenge is also internal. So to give you an example, when we were doing our road show, so I was actually, going to have my first kid. And so the roadshow happened till like a week before, and then the kid got delivered a week after. So that was there. And then when we actually got listed, which is, so you basically do the roadshow, then you get the approval, then you, wait for the this thing, the market timing and book building, etc. So that takes a lot of time. So the day our IPO close date happened, that is the day that he turned 1. Wow. So that was one. And then the second thing is that, my second kid, when he got born, so that was between, when we listed, and I did not miss any quarterly calls. So you have calls like every quarter, right? So you have to be, like very attentive with, so after the call, you have like a lot of questions with the analyst, right? So you have to be, so that's like an intense, few hours, and obviously preparation before that. So I did not miss any of those. So I think a lot of, I think for women, for instance, like childbirth is probably one thing, or, some of the things which really changes dynamics in your life, because now you have to take care of, more people. So I think that was probably one of the things which was very interesting. And, I think for me, probably just like having sort of continue to invest in fitness, I think probably was the thing that kept me sane throughout and kept me sort of most effective. So, like even the second kid that I have, I was in office till like 2 days before. And my first meeting in office was like within I think the 4th week. So, I think that is one of the things that I probably, that I also take sort of advice from people, that, how you're able to sort of manage both personally and professionally, because obviously women, there are a few more variables, which men can, go over much more easily.
I think we've heard some wonderful, round of applause to Neha. I think This is just amazing. And we've heard wonderful stories today of grit, and I think how women are able to just take it in their stride, and the purpose, passion, just you're building your company just is the focus, and you drive it. Swati, we heard you before, and it was just amazing. I think really, really great, Neha. And I think I'm going to just ask you one anecdote on, audacity to dream, where you were challenged and you said, no, this is.
So I think probably, like listing is a big example. Like someone would have told, so we got actually, so interestingly, we got listed within the first 10 years of the company's history. And we were the first tech-funded company in Bangalore to get listed. Like if you look at the venture-backed one, yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
that's amazing. I didn't know this. Amazing.
Yeah. So I think, if someone would have asked me earlier, like 10 years back, is that possible? Obviously, the answer would have been no. But I think it's just the fact that, if you just keep your heads down and you'll be surprised at what you end up achieving. If you just, think that is, if you just dream big.
Super. And Neha, this we've not discussed, but just a quick rapid fire to end this. Okay, go-to person in crisis.
I don't know. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Abhishek.
Not Vani.
Yes.
Go-to person for wins. Don't
For?
say Abhishek.
For?
Wins. When you have wins. Abhishek.
Maybe my mom. Yes.
Wow.
Because she
super.
enjoys it more, I feel.
Super. I think so much for the role of moms in our lives today. Like, so much touched upon it.
I think they amplify your highs. So they are more happy about the high than you feel nicer.
Truly so, truly so. And what do you do to bring sanity in your life as a founder and now, a company that's...
I get up at 5 a.m. and I do 6 to 7 a.m. yoga like for the last 2 years diligently. That is the only thing that has kept me sane.
Fabulous, fabulous. Riddhi, I hope you're hearing that. Okay, last one. One myth that every woman founder should know about, that it's a myth.
That it's equally easy for men and women. I don't think so. I think women have more variables, so they have to plan better for a lot of things.
Super. Thank you so much, Neha, for this, and more power to you. May you always be the torchbearer for many of us here. Thank you. Thank you so much.